Welcome to Pieces Here. I'm Avis Kalfsbeek, and we're taking a little rest between podcast series to help Kitty O'Compost improve her reporter voice for peace. Kitty is a character I made up who's a little offbeat, a satiric smarty pants, and she's getting ready to report on a big story about peace, AI, and the future of the commons. It's called Control AI DISARM. At the end, you'll also hear the Next Peacelands, a roll call of global armed conflicts and arms exports. If that's too much today, it's okay to end early. But if you can stay, I hope you'll let it deepen your resolve for peace. As usual, you can find the words and books I make for peace at aviskalfsbeek.com. Now over to Kitty. Well, today's reading comes from one Charles Dickens, a man who could wander a whole city block and come back with a dozen characters, 3 moral lessons, and at least one cranky landlord. He wrote when London was noisy and rough and unfair, and he believed stories could shake loose a little more kindness in people. The Old Curiosity Shop is one of his gentler tales, full of odd treasures, worn corners, and 2 travelers trying their best to outrun sorrow and hang on to hope. I'll be reading just a little bit, enough to set the lantern glowing. Well, honey, I could read a classic novel or the label on a jar of peanut butter, and it'd still make a space for peace, because sometimes the medicine isn't the words themselves, it's the moment we choose to pause, breathe, and remember that nobody, for goodness sake, is holding a gosh darn gun. The following is an excerpt from The Old Curiosity Shop by Charles Dickens. Chapter 1. Although I am an old man, night is generally my time for walking. In the summer, I often leave home early in the morning and roam about fields and lanes all day, or even escape for days or weeks together. But saving in the country, I seldom go out until after dark, though. Heaven be thanked, I love its light and feel the cheerfulness it sheds upon the earth as much as any creature living. I have fallen insensibly into this habit, both because it favors my infirmity and because it affords me greater opportunity of speculating on the characters and occupations of those who fill the streets. The glare and hurry of broad noon are not adapted to idle pursuits like mine. A glimpse of passing faces caught by the light of a street lamp or a shop window is often better for my purpose than their full revelation in the daylight. And if I must add the truth, night is kinder in this respect than day, which too often destroys an air-built castle at the moment of its completion, without the least ceremony or remorse. That constant pacing to and fro, that never-ending restlessness, that incessant tread of feet wearing the rough stone smooth and glossy, is it not a wonder how the dwellers in narrow ways can bear to hear it? Think of a sick man in such a place as St. Martin's Court, listening to the footsteps and in the midst of pain and weariness obliged, despite himself, as though it were a task he must perform, to detect the child's step from the man's, the slipshod beggar from the booted exquisite, the lounging from the busy, the dull heel of the sauntering outcast from the quick tread of an expectant pleasure-seeker. Think of the hum and noise always being present to his sense, and of the stream of life that will not stop, pouring on through all his restless dreams, as if he were condemned to lie, dead but conscious, in a noisy churchyard, and had no hope of rest for centuries to come. Then the crowds forever passing and repassing on the bridges, on those which are free of toll at least, where many stop on fine evenings looking listlessly down upon the water with some vague idea that by and by it runs between green banks which grow wider and wider until at last it joins the broad vast sea, where some halt to rest from heavy loads and think as they look over the parapet that to smoke and lounge aways one's life, and lie sleeping in the sun upon a hot tarpaulin in a dull, slow, sluggish barge, must be happiness unalloyed, and where some in a very different class pause with heavier loads than they, remembering to have heard or read in old time that drowning was not a hard death, but of all means of suicide the easiest and the best. Covent Garden Market at sunrise, too, in the spring or summer, when the fragrance of sweet flowers is in the air, overpowering even the unwholesome streams of last night's debauchery, and driving the dusky thrush through cage, has hung outside a garret window all night long, half mad with joy. Poor bird! The only neighboring thing at all akin to the other little captives, some of whom, shrinking from the hot hands of drunken purchasers, lie drooping on the path already, while others, sodden by the close contact, await the time when they shall be watered and freshened up to please more sober company, and make old clerks who pass them on their road to business wonder what has filled their breasts with visions of the country. But my present purpose is not to expatiate upon my walks. The story I am about to relate, and to which I shall recur at intervals, arose out of one of these rambles, and thus I have been led to speak of them by way of preface. One night I had roamed into the city and was walking slowly on my usual way, musing upon a great many things, when I was arrested by an inquiry, the purport of which did not reach me, but which seemed to be addressed to myself, and was preferred in a soft, sweet voice that struck me very pleasantly. I turned hastily round and found at my elbow a pretty little girl, who begged to be directed to a certain street at a considerable distance, and indeed in quite another quarter of the town. "It is a very long way from here," I said, "my child." "I know that, sir," she replied timidly. "I am afraid it is a very long way, for I came from there tonight." "Alone?" said I, in some surprise. "Oh, yes, I don't mind that, but I'm a little frightened now, for I had lost my road." "And what made you ask it of me? Suppose I should tell you wrong?" "I am sure you will not do that," said the little creature. "You are such a very old gentleman, and walk so slow yourself." I cannot describe how much I was impressed by this appeal and the energy with which it was made, which brought a tear into the child's clear eye and made her slight figure tremble as she looked up into my face. Thank you for letting me practice Kitty's reporting voice for the big story ahead. Control AI DISARM. Now stay with me a few minutes longer if you're able for the Next Peacelands. Podcasts usually have ads you fast forward through. This one doesn't. Instead, I invite you to pause here just for a few minutes and listen with an open heart, not to memorize the numbers, not to analyze the politics. As I read each conflict, I'll say aloud, "Peace is here." You're welcome to say it with me or just think it quietly. If you'd like to read, sing, or paint your own version of the Next Peacelands, or tell me how to say peace is here in your language, I'd love to hear it. This is the Next Peacelands. Not for doom and gloom, not for pity or sadness, we speak and we listen to these geographic locations of wars and the numbers of deaths of human souls to help put the great disarmament, the period in which we live now, and peace at the forefront of our daily consciousness and actions. Following are the major and minor armed conflicts, over 1,000 deaths in 1 year as of November 2025. Myanmar conflict since 1948, 199,000 total fatalities, 13,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Arab-Israeli conflict since 1948, 263,000 total fatalities, 25,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Congolese conflicts since 1996, 211,000 cumulative fatalities, 10,000 deaths year to date 2025. Peace is here. Islamist insurgencies in Maghreb Sahel since 2002, 464,000 total fatalities, 18,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Mexican drug war since 2006, 417,000 total fatalities, 11,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Sudanese conflicts since 2008, 1,400,000 cumulative fatalities, 20,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Russo-Ukrainian war since 2014, 400,000 cumulative fatalities, 66,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Ethiopian civil conflict since 2018, 610,000 cumulative fatalities, 5,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Colombian-Venezuelan conflicts since 1964, 458,000 cumulative fatalities, 2,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Afghan conflict since 1978, 2,800,000 cumulative fatalities, 3,000 deaths 2025 year to date. Peace is here. Somali civil war, current phase, since 1991, 1 million cumulative fatalities, 10,000 deaths 2025 year to date. Peace is here. Civil conflicts in Nigeria since 1998, 104,000 cumulative fatalities, 3,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. The Yemeni civil war crisis since 2011, 382,000 cumulative fatalities, 3,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Syrian conflict spillovers since 2011, 656,000 cumulative fatalities, 9,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Cameroonian conflicts since 2012, 9,000 cumulative fatalities, 900 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Ecuadorian drug war since 2018, 9,000 cumulative fatalities, 4,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Haitian crisis since 2018, 20,000 cumulative fatalities, 3,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Does that mean the countries that weren't mentioned are more peaceful? Some are not. Here are the world's largest weapons exporters according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute's Arms Transfers Database. These numbers use TIV, a value that reflects how much destructive military weaponry a country sends abroad, regardless of the payment or cost. The United States exports $729 billion in weapons volume, 43% of total global exports. Peace is here. France exports $136 billion in weapons volume, 10% of global exports. Peace is here. Russia exports $155 billion in weapons volume, 8% of global exports. Peace is here. China exports $61 billion in weapons volume, 6% of global exports. Peace is here. Germany exports 90 billion in weapons volume, 6% of global exports. Peace is here. Italy exports 37 billion in weapons volume, 5% of global exports. Peace is here. The United Kingdom exports 144 billion in weapons volume, 4% of global exports. Peace is here.